Hello everybody, I'm Buzz, and let's do some conclusions and final review on the VaritubeX from Ivape.net. It's the new version of the Lavitude. There's lots of videos out there already about it. I like the device. Vapes real well. It's reliable. I've used it at work. I've vaped it on our lifting tower 250 feet in South Korea just for the fun of it. So it's kind of been all over the place with me. I use it quite a bit. It's one of the ones that I use a lot. I use microberry a lot. I use them all a lot, but this one gets a lot of use. It's fairly cheap, and you can find them now different places for like $49, I think, for the standalone. So for 50 bucks, if you break it while you're out at work or something, you're not out that much as compared to microberry, which needs no explanation. It's the top of the line, but I don't want to break that because I'm out 200 bucks if I do that. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll put it on the oscilloscope and see what the numbers say about it. Let's get him all hooked up. Okay, I got it. The battery's only got 1 bar on it. I did that on purpose. If the battery goes down, I guess we'll have to throw a new one in there, but so we can show that it works with the low battery charge also. It works about the same as when it's got a full battery charge. Okay, let's set it down to 3 volts. Let's it's on the scope now. Let's turn it on. There we go. And let's see. You can see the duty cycle there. It's on just about as long as it's off. So that's at 3 volts. And then let's check the voltage. Oop, wrong button. Wrong button again. There we go. Okay. At 3 volts, peak to peak, we're pulling 6 volts in 2.88. So that's real close to 3. If we can make you see that. There we go. It's backwards though. It's hard for you to see all that stuff. So that's what it's doing there. Now let's run it up to 4 volts and see what she does. Okay. We'll give her. There it's measuring. We'll hold it. Okay. Now you can see it's staying on a little bit longer than it's staying off. And that's the pulse adjusting the voltage with the switch there. And we've got 6 volts peak to peak still. And we're at 3.84 volts. So that's pretty close to what it's set at. And since really this isn't under load, that doesn't have a lot, but let's run it, skip 5 and run it up to 6 and see what we get. Okay, let's get the device going. There you can see it's pretty much just a straight line. So that's running at full power. There's some little tiny jags and dips in it, but not much. And it's running at 5.48 volts, and it's 6 volts peak to peak. So that stayed consistent throughout our little test there. All right, now let's go ahead and throw the dual coil tank on there and give it the load test, and dual coils will do it for sure, huh? All right, let's go back around to, we'll start out at 3 and work our way back up again. Okay, here we are at 3 volts. Okay. Can we see it? See them? It's pretty jagged now at the top. Or it was nice and smooth without the load. You can see the difference in the under load versus the load. And the duty cycle, and you can see the peaks aren't as high. It's reduced the voltage, and at 3 volts, it's given me 1.68 volts, which isn't very good, huh? And then peak to peak, we got 4.96 volts. So let's run him up to 4 and see what happens. Okay. There we're getting a reading. Froze it, or hold it. Okay, now at 4 volts, we're running, you can see it still didn't quite go up as high as it was without the load for sure. Look at that peak up there. That was what it was getting without the load at the very top of that bar, the graph there. And at 4 volts, we're definitely staying on longer than we're staying off. And let's see the voltage. We got 4.72 volts peak to peak and 2.4 volts voltage. And let's give it a vape and see what happens. Actually, not bad. It doesn't vape like it's at 2.4 volts for sure, but that's what the numbers say. All right, now let's push her up to 5 and see what happens. Okay, here we go. We're getting a reading. Put it on hold. Now, as you can see, it's definitely staying on at a longer time than it's staying off. The pulse is working, and it says it's 4.96 volts peak to peak and 2.8 volts of power. For this tank, atomizer tank, that's a pretty good setting. I kind of like that. All right, let's run her up to, and it's definitely stepping the power back, the protection that's in there for the circuitry and stuff. So let's run it up to 6 and see what it does. All right. Okay, we got a hold. There, it's just a straight line again, so it's a little bit jagged with the underload, and it says we're running 3.44 volts, and voltage peak to peak is 4 volts. So that stepped that down a little bit actually in the other, but it's supposed to have a 3.9 or 4 amp, and some say 3.5, which cutoff switch. I'm saying it's a 3.5 because we're at 6 volts, and right now it's at 3.5. So that's what the numbers say to me. And that's pretty nice also. If you really like putting the juice to your dual coils, it didn't work. Maybe it's this particular one. It seems like with the regular dual coil cartomizer, this is a dual coil atomizer, it ran a little better. I don't have one set up to prove it, but that's what I noticed. Let me find my other cartomizer here. Here's a high voltage 4.5 ohm cartomizer. Let's run through the numbers again and see what it does. Okay, let's go back down to 3 and take it off a hold. Get it going. We're getting a reading. Okay, we're getting same kind of thing. It's notice the peaks there at the top end of the wave there, kind of choppy or whatever. Then our readings are 2.8 volts and 6.24 volts peak to peak. So it's not stepping that down, and it's 2.8 volts. That's, I can't remember for sure, but that's pretty close to what we had when we did it without a load. And let's go to 4 and see what we get. Okay, we're getting a reading. See it's getting, you can see the waves, the graph there's, it's a lot higher on that. It's not stepping it down. We're getting that was 4, and we're getting 3.76 volts. That's not quite what it was, but pretty close without a load. And then 6.24 peak to peak. Okay, let's run it up to 5 and see what we get. All right. There, we got a reading on it. Okay. At 5 volts, we're getting 4.72 volts and 6.24 peak to peak. And same thing, it's not stepping it back very much. You can see that right there. And at 5 volts, see the ons are a lot. It's staying on a lot longer than it's staying off on the pulse there. So let's do it one more time, and we'll set her up to 6 volts. Okay, same thing. It just stays constantly on. A little bit of waving around up there. Let's see, our numbers are, we've got 5.76 volts and 6.32 volts, or 6.32 volts peak to peak. Then for this 4.5 ohm cartomizer on a high voltage, that's pretty good setting, really. So it works okay for dual coils, but I like it. I don't run it any higher than what it's given me on anything else anyway. So maybe a little bit higher, but not much. So it doesn't run bad for the price. You can't beat it. I enjoy it, and can't say any complaints about it. So everybody, keep on vaping.